This is Matthew Kratter's Bitcoin University. Today I want to talk about yet another Bitcoin Core smoking gun. If we take a look at over on GitHub, if we look up Bitcoin Core, we can see the description. If we scroll down here, what is Bitcoin Core? Bitcoin Core connects to the Bitcoin peer-to-peer network to download and fully validate blocks and transactions. It also includes a wallet and graphical user interface, which can be optionally built. That's really all this tells you about Bitcoin. But if we look at what this same site said just a few years ago, it went like this. This is from 2021. What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is an experimental digital currency that enables instant payments to anyone, anywhere in the world. Bitcoin uses peer-to-peer technology, etc. So it talks about Bitcoin as money, whereas the current version doesn't. If you read this, you wouldn't even understand that Bitcoin was money. So Bitcoin used to be clearly described as a monetary network by Bitcoin Core back in 2021 and even part of 2022. And then they changed the description, which is what we're going to be talking about today. This was initiated by the Bitcoin Core lead maintainer at the time, Wladimir van der Laan, who is one of the legends among Bitcoin Core devs. This was the first pull request that he put forward, and this one was never merged. You can see it was closed. You can see it's his Laan WJ. And what he writes at the top here, what Bitcoin is very much up for discussion. There's no need to try to resolve nor explain that here, definitely not anymore. So introducing a little bit of uncertainty, even what Bitcoin is. And we can see here, these were the proposed changes, changing what is Bitcoin and what is Bitcoin Core, and changing it from being a digital currency to being just a node implementation for the Bitcoin peer-to-peer network, which makes it a much wider type of network. If we take a look though, this one never went through. Vlad closed it on April 28th, 2022, saying, closing this was a bad idea. I'm sorry. Now, we don't know why he thought it was a bad idea, and this is strange because he did approve of a future pull request that did the exact same thing, and we can see that this PR was actually merged by Fanquake. And if we take a look at it, that makes the same changes. What is Bitcoin goes to what is Bitcoin Core, and it gets rid of the part where they're talking about Bitcoin as being money or as being currency. This is the same pull request right here. And if we look at the discussion that took place, Krista PSK, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the name correctly, asks why not also keep what is Bitcoin part above what is Bitcoin Core part, obviously wanting to keep the monetary aspect in. And Vlad commented, well, actually here he's just acting the PR. So in spite of the fact that he closed the PR, the previous PR saying this was a bad idea, and he closed it, now he's in favor of the same thing when someone else proposed the pull request. So Vlad is acting it, in other words, saying he approves of these changes. And then Marco Falke has a comment here, a response to Krista saying, who was asking why not also keep what is Bitcoin part above what is Bitcoin Core. And Marco responds, at this point, I don't think it is not up to this. I think he means at this point, I don't think it is up to this project to prescribe what Bitcoin is. If you mean a description, I'm wondering what the goal of it would be. So if we take a look now where it is today, again, this is what the Bitcoin Core GitHub repo looks like, and it doesn't mention Bitcoin as money at all. I think this is yet another example, especially Marco Falke's comment here about we shouldn't prescribe what Bitcoin is. I think this is yet another example of sort of postmodern nonsense creeping into Bitcoin Core dev culture. Calling things what they actually are is condemned as being prescriptive by Marco and is called imposing your definition and usage on other people. We know how this sort of postmodern stuff works. The sort of, who are we to tell people that Bitcoin is a monetary network? Why should we prescribe it on the Bitcoin GitHub? These are exactly the kind of postmodern nihilists, in my opinion, that you don't want anywhere near the inner circle of Bitcoin's reference implementation. If you're finding this video interesting so far, just pause really briefly here to ask you to help to support this channel. Hit the subscribe button. That does really help. Leave a like, leave a comment, question, suggestion for a future video, and share this video with a friend or family member. Now, none of this would be quite as interesting as it is if it didn't immediately precede the push from many Bitcoin Core devs and supporters to expand Bitcoin's scope from being a monetary network. So you first change the definition on the website, and then you start to change the underlying software. So this was expanding Bitcoin's scope. Many of these Bitcoin Core devs wanted to expand the scope from being just a purely monetary network to more of a general data agnostic platform where things like inscriptions and large op returns were acceptable, and JPEGs and all the stuff that comes with inscriptions. This sort of cultural creep is apparent in what came after this redefinition of Bitcoin by Bitcoin Core on GitHub. Just a few months months later, when Casey Wladimir showed people how to exploit a bug found in Taproot to spam the Bitcoin blockchain even more. This was posted on January 20th of 2023. And Casey writing here, inscriptions are finally ready for Bitcoin mainnet. Inscriptions are like NFTs, but are true digital artifacts, decentralized, immutable, always on chain, and native to Bitcoin. And this was really the beginning of a huge wave of spam that is still hitting the Bitcoin blockchain. This inscriptions bug should have been fixed right away after Casey discovered it, and he shouldn't have tried to exploit it. He should have reported it privately to the Bitcoin Core devs. That would have been the responsible thing to do, but he's a bit of an attention whore, so he decided to take a different route. This inscriptions bug should have been fixed right away by Bitcoin Core before it filled the blockchain up with over 100 gigabytes of spam and blew up the UTXO set. But once again, Bitcoin Core devs were asleep at the wheel, or maybe they were complicit, or at least they're unwilling to treat Bitcoin spam like their predecessors had done during the op return wars of 2014, which we've spoken about a lot. And this is especially surprising since many of the same Bitcoin Core devs who had fought the op return wars in 2014 decided not to fight Bitcoin spam in 2023. And this included Vlad and Peter Woola and a whole bunch of these guys. And this is what happened in the Bitcoin UTXO set as a result. And this is very bad for Bitcoin. You can see the slope of UTXO, the number of UTXOs going almost vertical right after Inscriptions was presented by Casey, and these began to be deployed on mainnet really starting in April of 2023. Now, Vlad himself had stepped down in February of 2023, and this was a good thing for him. I think he retired just in time because otherwise he would have needed to weigh in on the Inscriptions exploit, but instead he left at about the same time. So this is what happened in summary. These are all the different pieces I'm pulling together here. Bitcoin Core removed the definition of Bitcoin as a monetary network from the repo, followed shortly after by the Inscriptions attack on Bitcoin, which Luke Dasher tried to stop with a pull request, a PR, that itself was rejected by Gloria Zhao by invoking a new definition of data carrier size that had just been written by Falke, the same guy who said that we shouldn't impose our definition of Bitcoin as money on everyone else. This is where he does it in that pull request we just looked at. At this point, I don't think it's up to this project to prescribe what Bitcoin is. So then what happens next? Well, Falke steps down as well. He leaves at about the same time, February 2023. He steps down as a maintainer, and then Gloria Zhao becomes the first female core maintainer. So Vlad and Falke both stepped down as lead maintainers at around the same time, as well as Peter Woola, to be replaced by Gloria Zhao, who in 2025 merged the contentious PR that blew open op return from 83 bytes to 100,000 bytes, thus opening up this erstwhile monetary network to even more spam. Taken together, these look like classic Marxist-like subversion tactics to me. Whether or not the participants were aware of what they were doing, what they did though, number one, change the definitions, in this case both of Bitcoin on the repo and also the definition of what data carrier size applies to. So it just applies to outputs, it doesn't apply to inputs, in which case it could not be used to stop inscriptions. So they changed definitions both of Bitcoin and of data carrier size. Then they used those changed definitions to gaslight people and push through a radical agenda that changes the fundamentals of the system. If you want to learn more about changing the definition of data carrier size in order to reject a PR by Luke Dasher that would have fixed the Inscriptions bug, I'll put a link to this video, which I called Bitcoin Core's Original Sin. My source for that video, as well as today's video, was this X account that I think you should definitely follow. I've talked about this account before, Ghost of Unhosted Marcellus. Lots of really, really good material. So this is how I learned about these changes that were made to the Bitcoin Core repo and changing the description of what Bitcoin and what Bitcoin Core was and eliminating the monetary piece of it. So I think this is very significant. I want to thank Ghost for doing the digging. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the subscribe and like buttons. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. Let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.